King Thongren stood in the main hall, where the bodies of the dead that were recovered from the battle had been brought. He looked down at the corpse of his friend, Kale Steelcaster, and he felt his heart harden. He had not wished for bloodshed between his people and the elves, but with the result of this latest battle, he knew war was inevitable. But what he did not know was if his small clan would be able to survive it. The sound of the door opening tore the king away from his thoughts, and he looked up to see the royal herald enter. "My king, an emissary has come wishing to speak with you." "From the elves?" Thongren asked skeptically. "No, my lord. It is an outsider who wishes to speak with you of an alliance. He says he will only speak to you." "Very well, I shall come." As he walked from the hall to the audience chamber, Thongren thought that perhaps the humans had come seeking friendship. They had often struck good bargains, and there might be of great help against the elves of Port Kervion. His surprise was complete when he entered the chamber, and was confronted not with a human, but a small orange creature that looked like a humanoid lizard. Though he had never seen one with his own eyes, King Thongren knew of the Saurians through the legends of his people, and those legends spoke of them as the one-time slave masters of both dwarves and elves. "What do you want, lizard?" the dwarf king sneered. "Not lizard," the creature responded. "Saurian. And I come to speak of peace." "And who are you to speak of anything to me?" "I am Baal-Shirach, voice of Sekalath. I speak his words to you, Dwarf King. We have a common foe in the elves, and Sekalath offers solutions." "What kind of solutions?" Thongren asked, intrigued despite himself. "Sekalath has found the elves' camp, from which they make war against you. Sekalath shall send his forces against the elves and drive them towards the sea. Thus weakened, your people should be able to break them." The idea of a second attack force interested King Thongren. "But what is your master's price for this aid?" the king asked. "No price from you, Dwarf King. But when the elves are driven away, their place by the sea will belong to Sekalath." Thongren saw no real problem with this, but decided to push his luck a little further. "I will agree, provided that when you control Port Kervion, you shall allow us to use the port to trade the earnings from our mines." Baal-Shirach smiled. "This is acceptable. You also will find the forces of Sekalath to be an interested customer for your wares." Alright, so Matiram here again with another narrative battle report. Tonight it will be a Saurian Ancients versus the Highborn Elves in a 4,000 point narrative battle with the hold the ground objective. Basically that field in the center, dead center of the board, is going to represent the center of the elves' camp. And so we're giving extra objective points for whoever is controlling the camp at the end of the game. So I was really looking forward to this battle. I think it was a pretty good one, and let's go ahead and get into discussing deployment. Alright, so we're going to start with the elves. On the left side, we have a Sea Guard Reaper. Then we've got a unit of 10 Highborn Lancers with full command. Then we have a unit of 30 Swordmasters with full command. In there is Lord Fenry of House Whitethorn. He is the force's battle standard bearer, and he is bearing a great weapon, heavy armor, and a longbow. In case you're curious as to why they're tilted that way, that fountain that's directly in front of them we're treating as an impassable piece of terrain. Next to that, he has a unit of 25 Sea Guard with full command. Behind the Sea Guard is Grandmaster Hythor, a mage of the Order of the Fiery Heart, on his dragon with dragon forged armor, and he is a wizard master with 4 spells of pyromancy. Next to that is a second Sea Guard Reaper, and here on the far flank on the other side of the ruins is his Sky Sloop with the bolt thrower attachment on the back of it. So, starting on the right with the Lizard Men, or the Saurian Ancients, I'm sorry, I've got a unit of Skink Hunters with blowguns. Directly behind them is a Taurosaur with the giant bow. Next is a Spearback. There's a second Spearback next to that. They are 2 separate units. They're not together. Directly behind that is my unit of 15 Skink Braves, which serve as a bunker for Valsirach, my Skink Priest, who is a Wizard Apprentice, level 3 spells out of Druidism. And he is carrying the Black Cube and an Obsidian Rock, or Magic Resist 2. Since I pretty much knew I was going to be dealing with Pyromancy again. Next to those guys is a Tyroscutus with the Sun Engine on the back of it. Then we have my big old brick of 32 Saurus Warriors with the Serpent Warrior upgrade and Spears and Shields. In front of them is a second unit of Skink Hunters with blowguns. And in the unit of Saurian Warriors, I have my General, who is a Firstborn Warlord. He is carrying a shield, the Ogre Sword, Armor of Destiny, and the Charm of Cursed Iron, as well as my BSB, which is on the General is on the left side of the unit, the BSB is on the right side of the unit, and the BSB is a Firstborn Veteran. He has the Obsidian Nullstone for Magic Resist 3 on the unit, and a Potion of Swiftness. He's also carrying a Halberd. Then, to cover the rest of that flank, I have a Stygiasaur with the spells of the Stygiasaur Rider, so he knows Awaken the Beast and Swarm of Insects. And I upgraded both of my blowgun fellows with Vanguard, so I decided to go ahead and take advantage of that, figuring that maybe I could lure out his units for some easy charges, or at very least threaten him enough to make them be the targets of his fiery death magic. So the Highborn Elves actually win the turn to go first. Yeah, that didn't go as well as I was hoping. But he ends up starting here, taking his Lancers. He's going to try and come around that hill and get into my flank. I absolutely cannot let that happen. I'm really super worried about those Sword Masters, and I really can't afford him distracting me with anything in my flank. He's also bringing his Dragon Mage over in this area as well. I think he's, for some reason, as afraid of my Spear unit of Saurus as I am of his Sword Masters, even though I think that Sword Master unit could eat me for lunch. So I think he's going to start coming over here to try and do some damage with his magic. And over here, he's moving the sloop to the other flank. Yeah, I'm kind of worried about that. It can actually, it's one of the few things that and the Reapers he's got are basically the only things at range that I'm worried about hurting my monsters. So I'm hoping that I can take those out with poison shots, maybe. Then he goes into magic, and he's starting off magic strong. He goes ahead and drops the +1 to wound with flaming attacks on his Spear Guard, or his Sea Guard, because that actually affects their range shooting as well, which is not good, but I tried to stop it and couldn't. And then he lands a Flaming Salvo for D3 Strength 4 flaming hits on my first unit of Skinks and kills 2 of them. And then the Fireball that follows up from that killed 3 more. Then he pyroclastic flowed them and killed 2 more, and the fireball from that destroyed the unit. So, um, pretty rough. I failed to stop anything this magic phase, just because he was outrolling me. Um, and he did a lot of damage, but you know what? I'm kind of okay with the fact that he just unloaded all that fire on what is essentially a chaff unit, which means they're basically doing their jobs distracting him. Then over here, he opens up with some gunshot or some bow shots from the spear guys, and doesn't do very well. He only kills off 3 of the skinks. But then oh, sorry, no, the first shot was from the sloop. So yeah, he did the multi-shot thing, killed a few from the sloop, and then the archers let loose and nuked the rest of the unit. And then he rolls a 1 to shoot at one of my monsters with his bolt thrower. And then he rolls another 1 to shoot at another one of my monsters with his bolt throwers. So I'm pretty super happy that he's not killing me. I just wish the bolt throwers could misfire. So we go into Saurian Ancients turn 1. My big threat right now is I've got to do something about those Lancers, so I've decided to go ahead and march up my Stygiosaur within breath weapon range. He's got a Strength 3 toxic breath weapon, which is just made to take out these Elven Knights, because really all they've got is for protection is that 2-up. You ignore that and they die in droves. And everything else I'm moving up kind of cautiously. I know he's got a lot of fire, so I kind of want to stay out of the field because I don't want to run the risk of having to deal with him re-rolling the wounds. So I move up the 2 units of spearbacks to get close enough to start shooting, and everything else I'm pretty cautious with. Like I said, the biggest threat on the board I think are those 30 sword masters. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to deal with them. My hope is I'll be able to do some shooting, maybe some magic, thin them down. Other than that, I can chap them up maybe, but it's just there's an awful lot of killing power in that unit, and I don't really have an answer for it. So he holds my magic down because I don't roll magic well ever. So we go into shooting, my breath weapon goes off and melts half of this unit of Lancers, which I am super happy with. And then they break, or they panic and run off. They run through uh, the bolt thrower and end up about an inch on the other side of it, which I'm pretty happy with, because that sets me up with a beautiful charge with the Stygiosaur into the bolt thrower, provided that he doesn't bring his dragon into me next turn. And over here, between the 2 spearbacks, I kill 4 out of 30 of the great swords. Not awesome, but I'll take it at this point because I need to thin them down. So we go into Highborn Elves turn 2 because I don't accomplish anything else. He surprises me by not charging anything. I really would have expected him to bring the dragon into the Stygiosaur. The dragon would have eaten the Stygiosaur pretty casually. But I think he's nervous because it's his mage and his general. He thinks it's a lot of points, so he's playing very cautiously with it. So no charges, so he goes ahead and rallies with the Lancers and points them this way because his hope is to get the opportunity to run around his his bolt thrower and continue on his flanking aim. I don't think he expects me to charge his bolt thrower at this point because, I mean, at this point I'm going to charge that bolt thrower, kill it, and overrun right into him. And over here, he actually moves up. I'm not entirely sure what he's expecting here, but I'm willing to charge that sloop with the Taurosaur pretty much all day long. And if he does decide to like bait me with it and flee, I can redirect into His Seaguard on the other side with not a terrible roll. So I've got options here, so I'm pretty happy with that. And you can see he then brings his dragon back. Instead of charging me, brings him back behind the lines to protect him. I don't know, maybe he thought I was going to go after him with the spearman, I'm not sure. But then his other lines come up a little bit. Again, if I were playing the Highborn Elves at this point, I would probably be a lot more aggressive with those swordsmen because there's really nothing I've got that are going to be able to stop them. But he's playing very cautiously, and I'm hoping that I'll make him pay for that. So then we go into Magic Phase, and he ends up. It was a low Magic Phase. It was like 4-2. I popped the cube, which makes it 3-3, and he still beats me on the dice and gets Immolation off. I'm actually okay with this. If I want to charge, it's magic damage, so that Saurus unit has got a 4-up ward save against any of the wounds it would possibly take from that. And if I leave it there, he's either going to have to spend effort dispelling it, or he's going to have to run his Sword Masters into it and probably kill some of them. So I actually think this is probably going to work out better for me than for him in the long run. Then he decides that the Spearbacks need to go, so he tosses the Fireball and inflicts 1 wound on the left Spearback. And then he opens up with Pyroclastic Flow and Fireball. So I guess this was not the 4 dice. I'm think that must have been a later turn, because he could not have gotten all these spells off on 4 dice. But yeah, Magic, he's good. He just rolls very, very well. So yeah, he gets Pyroclastic Flow and Fireball off on the Taurosaur, but only manages to sneak 2 more wounds. Then he starts shooting. He ends up putting 2 wounds on the right Spearback, and then he uses the longbow from his BSB to put a wound on the left Spearback, so they're 2 and 2. And he did not get anything with the Seaguard. So we go into Saurian Ancients turn 2, and it plays out pretty much like I wanted it to. I charge the Taurosaur into the sloop, it flees, I succeed the redirect, the Seaguards shoot me, and end up actually getting through 2 wounds on the stand and shoot, but I complete the charge into them. So I'm worried. I've only got 2 wounds left to go, and I could get hurt pretty bad here, but at this point, I just want to put some hurt on. If I can get lucky to kill enough of these guys with the impact hits and whatnot to break them, I'm in line to run through and hit his general on the dragon and maybe do some impact hits. So that's either way, that's all win at this point if I can pull it off. And over here, I succeed the charge with my Stygiosaur into his Bolt Thrower. And I actually have to move everything up here, which means I have to enter the Spearbacks into the field, because I was just outside of spellcasting range for buffs on my Taurosaur. Like right now, I am exactly at 12 inches from my caster to him, and I need to give him regen this turn, so I'm praying I don't screw my Magic Phase up. And I don't screw my Magic Phase up. It's not a great Magic Phase, but it's enough. He stops my Oaken Throne, which lets me throw the rest of my dice at the Healing Waters, which gives him a 5+ regen save, as well as healing 1 wound from the attribute of Druidism. Then the 2 Spearbacks open up again, and looks like kills 4 more of the Swordsmen, which is awesome, because I've got them down to 22 now. Still not enough, but I'm slowly pinging them away, and that's really all I can hope to do. I'm really kind of hoping that if I don't stick, that he does take the bait and charge the flank of my Taurosaur there, and by some miracle I hold, because then I'll be able to charge him, and it'd be in the flank, but again, a lot of that is kind of hoping and not really expecting, so we'll see what happens. And over here, I do bad things. Very, very bad things to the Sea Guard. He only gets 2 wounds through, which, because of the spell I got off, doesn't kill the Torosaur. And I kill like half of the unit. Unfortunately, they are stubborn and they don't break, so I'm held there. Over here, the Stygiosaur absolutely stomps a mud hole in the bolt thrower, and I overrun into the front of the 5 remaining Lancers. So we go to Highborn Elves turn 3, and surprisingly enough, he's still not charging anything. I think he expects to be able to kill uh, the Torosaur in combat, and for some reason he doesn't think the swordsmen are good enough to go mix it up with the rest of my army by themselves, so he wants to wait for support and have the opportunity to thin me down a little bit more. Over here, he realizes what I was trying to do with getting his general, so obviously he moves the general over so he can rain damage on me. He also moves the bolt thrower up. Now, I got this on the forums, and maybe this is right, maybe this is wrong, but bolt throwers no longer have the move or fire rule, they just have reload, so he can move up and still take a shot this turn. If that's not wrong, or if that's not right, please correct me. So we go into magic, and again, fire magic is getting the job done. Scorching Salvo on the rightmost spearback takes him out. And the fireball that he got as the attribute takes the left spearback out. And then he drops a pyroclastic flow on the unit of Saurus, where I reveal I have a 4-up ward save, but he still manages to kill 2 of them. Then he does some shooting. I think this is from the bolt thrower. He ends up throwing some bolts and kills 2 of the skinks. We go into combat. My Stygiosaur kills 2 of the Lancers. He does nothing in return. They break and flee off the table, and I reform as such. Now the Torosaur finally finishes stomping a hole in the Sea Guard. I do enough to break them, and they run off. They run, and I do catch them. And I've run just far enough where he can't see me anymore, so I'm kind of okay there. So, Saurian Ancients turn 3. He's still didn't really move his swordsman, so I'm going to come over here and start harassing him and see what happens. So I move the Stygiosaur over. I spin around the Torosaur so that I can take some shots with stuff. And I've decided to go ahead and take my skinks and point them at his wizard, hoping that I can throw some poison shots, maybe sneak a couple of wounds through. Because I don't really have any other idea of how to deal with him, because he's going to fly circles around that Saurus block all day long, and I'm never going to get up with him. So I go into magic, and I finally get off the Oaken Throne! Yay! So super awesome there. I think he actually tried to stop it, and I actually got it through, which is amazing. Because usually Michael just absolutely crushes me in the magic phase, no matter what army he's playing. And then I decide to be awesome and do Summer Growth to get Saurus back and miscast it. I think I miscast it on 2 or 3 dice. So it was like a miscast. Yeah, it was a low miscast, but it was enough to kill 6 skinks because they're toughness 2. I know the skinks don't make a great bunker for that very reason, but at least I honestly I would probably trade 2 Saurus warriors for 6 skinks, like just for combat capability. I think that's an even trade. But that was pretty much all I did in that. I end up doing some shooting. I get 1 wound off on his general from poison shots, and the great bow shoots his crossbow here, and I hit, I wound, and do 1 wound to it. So I figure I'm going to have to charge that and just smear it all over the floor the next time I get a chance. And over here, the little dude on the back of the Stygiosaur hurls a poison javelin and kills one of the great swords, or the sword masters. So we're now down to, I've killed 9 of them out of 30, which is pretty good. So Highborn Elves turn 4. And this is the point where I'm starting to question my opponent's sanity because he's pretty much doing exactly what I want him to do. He's turned his Swift reformed his swordmasters to look at the Stygiosaur. I have no intention of that Stygiosaur being there. So, as a single model, it's way more maneuverable than him. I'm going to run him in circles as long as he lets me. Because I still am afraid of any of my units hitting that unit. He's probably going to be able to delete him unless I can do some sort of massive, just overwhelming force type thing. But as long as he's not pointed at the majority of my army, he can do whatever the hell he wants out there. Over here, the sloop comes back. It's drawing a bead on the Taurosaur, and his Dragon Mage comes over behind my lines, which has me really worried. What I'm thinking he's probably going to do is drop a breath weapon on the back of those schemes right now and just eat that unit, which would then take away all magical bonuses I've got, which would be decidedly bad. And he starts with giving a +1 to wound and flaming a hex to the sloop in magic, which is going to be bad because I only have 1 more wound left on my Taurosaur. And then he shoots at the Taurosaur, gets 2 hits. I have 6 up armor save on it, and I roll double 6s and save the life of my Taurosaur. And then we go to Saurian Ancients turn 4, and I need to get into combat. So the Taurosaur charges the Bolt Thrower. I figure I'm going to stomp that thing easy, and if I roll like a 9 on the overrun, 9 or 10 on the overrun, I'll hit the sloop. So it's not impossible that I would get up in its face, which makes me very happy. And over here, I just run the Stygiosaur around the back or the side of the Swordmasters because I am sure as hell not giving him anything to charge next turn. And then over here, I just move the Skinks, who are thankful that they're alive and that my opponent didn't use his breath weapon last turn. They're going after the sloop to do some damage to it with poison. I also turn around the Tyroscutus to hopefully throw some more poison shots from the back of that at his general as well. And I decide, you know what? My Saurus have been staring at his unit for a while. They're not facing me. So I might as well turn them around and see what this dragon is going to do. Because I am threatening with a charge if I wanted to send both the Tyroscutus and the Saurus in. And I'm pretty sure with the characters I've got, I'm going to eat that dragon if I can get a hold of it. So he'll have to move it somewhere. And I end up getting off regeneration 4 up and heal 1 wound because I've got the Oaken Throne up. So that's pretty awesome. And then during shooting, I get 1 poison wound off on the sloop. And then we go into combat because I have nothing else that shoots. Obviously, I kill the the crossbow on impact hits, and I overrun, and I end up falling a couple of inches short. So I'm way threatening his face and up on him, but no extra combat there. So we got a Highborn Elves turn 5, and the dragon comes and lands in the forest. The sloop moves around to get out of the front arc of that stuff. And the Swordmasters turn around again to follow the Stygiosaur. Not going to question it. Just going to be happy with my good fortune there and let my opponent kind of fall for me just baiting him around here. So, yeah, and here's just a better picture of them turning around to face the Stygiosaur. So he ends up popping the +1 to wound and flaming attacks on the sloop again, which makes me very sad. And then he pops 2d6 strength 4 flaming attacks on the back of the Thyroscutus and gets 2 wounds through. And then he drops the fireball from that on the Saurus unit and kills 1. And then the sloop fires again on the uh, the Taurosaur, and he fails to wound. He hits twice, fails to wound once, and I armor save 6 again once. So he's still alive, and the sloop cannot kill me yet. I'm kind of feeling like he must have been feeling with that lion chariot from a couple games ago that just could not die. Though I would argue that perhaps the Taurosaur is a little more deadly than just the lion chariot. So we go to Saurian Ancients turn 5. Pretty much it's just me turning around to look at stuff. I run the my dinosaurs around so that he can't get me again. And I turn everything to face the 3 big threats. Over here, I throw some. I don't get any magic off again. I do throw some poison shots and end up getting 1 more wound off on the sloop. And my guy on the back of the Stygiosaur gets. I think he kills 1 more on from a poison javelin shot. And then I come back over here, and with the bow, the great bow on the back of the Taurosaur, I go ahead and finish off the sloop. So we go to Highborn Elves turn 6, and he flies his dragon over here. It's got a few wounds on it at this point. And I think he just wants to come and do the damage that he can do. So I'm not really sure what he's going for, but it's going to be pretty messy if he can get into either of these 2 units, because he should be able to kill them. And at this point, realizing that he had screwed everything up, I'm not sure how he did this now that I'm looking at it. I think I actually let him swift reform in March by accident. But yeah, so in either case, he makes a run for the center of the board, which, looking at it now, should not have been possible because he was facing the opposite direction. But this is what I was waiting for. If he takes out, because he can get the points here, he's got to hold this. I only have 2 scoring units left. He's only got 1. So if I can get close enough within the scoring point, I can win the secondary objective too. Or I can go for broke, because he's just moved everything within a decent charge range. Or he's just moved this unit within a decent charge range of everything in my army. I'm already winning, but part of me wants to go for the massacre, so we'll have to see how that goes. So then we go to his magic phase, and he gets scary magic off on my skink unit, kills a bunch of them. They're outside of the leadership bubble. They panic and run off. Very, very bad. And then I think he tried to breathe fire on the Taurosaur, and it didn't do anything. So we go to my turn 6, and I bring the thunder. I decide now with my skink unit running off, the only way that I can win the secondary objective is to destroy his unit. So I throw everything I've got at it. I did succeed every charge, so Saurus in the front, Tyroscutus in the front, Taurosaur in the side, and Stygiosaur in the rear. I'm still pretty worried about this because I think he can allocate enough hits to probably kill the Taurosaur and the Tyroscutus, because he's like strength 6 or 7. And it's scary, and he goes first, and he's just going to chop a lot of things down. So I'm hoping for some magic buffs from my dude on the back of the Stygius. Um, and my skinks fail to rally and they run a little further, but they don't have enough time left in the game to run off the board, so I'm okay with giving him half points for that. Stygiusaur does succeed in giving +1 toughness to the Saurus, and then I forget to calculate it during combat. So, although I did get the spell off, I'm not sure why I did this, but I remembered the wound buff for scarification on the Stygiusaur, but I forgot the toughness for the Saurus warriors, and yeah. So combat goes on. I decide to give the battle roar, so all of my Saurus are swinging on hatred. He still manages to kill before I can swing like 2.5 ranks of Saurus. Um, but he whiffs on killing both of the dinosaurs, so they stay. He only gets 1 wound on the Stygiusaur in the back, and he didn't challenge my general, he was just throwing attacks from his BSB on my general and only gets through 2 of the 3 wounds. And between impact hits, the stomps, the number of attacks from the Saurus warriors who are fighting in like 4 ranks, and my characters, I do just enough wounds to completely eliminate his sword masters. So there is nothing left on his side but his dragon master. The battle had been a massacre. The dead littered the field, but the only bodies to be found would be the elves, as the Saurians had already made off with their dead and injured, leaving the army that had just seen battle to find the scene of a slaughter. Anger and grief filled the hearts of all who looked upon the former camp of the elves, and it was from this that Prince Victus would draw his resolve. The camp was a sight he would lock inside his mind, an ever-present image to drive his will forward. He knew only one answer to this attack, and that was to exterminate everything that stood before him as an enemy. As the prince surveyed, and the teams of elves gathered the dead, Grandmaster Highthor landed in front of him. His dragon gave off a mighty roar before returning to the skies. Victus, Highthor called, the elder's eyes showing signs of pure exhaustion. This was caused by the Saurians, the very ones who once held our people in chains. Thal's eyes shifted from the grief of the field to pure rage. The Saurians? He questioned, gritting his teeth to hold back the rage inside. They have been gone for ages. Why would they attack our camp? And how would they even know it was here? That, my lord, I have a theory about that, the Grand Master answered, trying to regain his composure before continuing. It is my belief that only someone familiar with this territory would know this location, but before he could continue, the gold-plated elf stopped him. Those serpents. It wasn't enough to attack my people unprovoked, Thal spat. But now they side themselves with the very creatures that once held their chains? Looking to the Grand Master for affirmation, he was greeted only by a nod and a slight hint of uncertainty. You are unsure? It is but a theory, my lord. There could be other explanations, Hathor conceded. Yes, there could be. But you are not my advisor because you make incorrect assumptions. The prince spoke, his gauntleted hand gripping tightly to the hilt of his ancestral sword. No, you are most likely correct on this. We must act accordingly. Commander So, the prince called, his second-in-command quickly making his way to the prince. Send for reinforcements. And send a letter to home. The commander looked puzzled, but took to his orders. And what should the letter say to the other princes? Thal thought for a moment, his mind working to find the words for what he felt to be true. The Saurians have returned, and the dwarves are their puppets. So, this was a big win for the Saurian Ancients. After everything was totaled up, it was a 20-0 victory. I still had most of my army on the table points-wise, and the only thing that my opponent had left was his Grandmaster Highthor on the dragon, and he was down a few wounds from various shootings and magics and whatnot. So I got half points for him too. So I ended up winning by over 2,000 points, which in a 4,000 point game classifies as a massacre. This game was pretty solid. I feel like I did everything right, at least as best I could. And I also feel like I got incredibly lucky because my ploy, particularly to distract the sword masters, should not have worked. I think if my opponent, he's just started playing High Elves really seriously, and I think he underestimates what his elite units like the Swordmasters can do. Because I'll be honest, I think even if he had decided just to take that Stygiosaur in the flank or the rear, if I was going to throw it at him, he could probably still kill it. So I would have, in his place, just ignored it, kept coming forward. But I think this is normally our dwarf player, so I think he's still playing in a very dwarf mindset where you need sort of multiple units to go in, and it's a grinding, dragging fight. And he was afraid to get stuck in something and then have my big Unisaurus come in. But frankly, that was a bluff. I mean, I look at it now and I see, just in this picture, how many a depleted unit of those Swordmasters killed of my Saurus unit when I attacked him with the vast majority of my army. I mean, 3 dinosaurs and a Saurus unit plus 2 characters, and I still lost half the unit almost. I think if he had come at me much quicker, he could have broken through before I got all my support together. I also think that he should have probably done the breath weapon on the skinks. They could have been out of it a little earlier. He also probably could have charged that dragon into something, and one of the dinosaurs at very least, and could have taken it out. But I think ultimately my opponent just played it too conservatively. Now, I don't think that I will be able to rely on this happening again, because I think once he learns the army, he's going to have a better understanding of his matchups compared to what I've got. And I think it's going to be messy. I definitely think my MVP was the magic resistance I had. With my luck, I can't really expect to win magic ever, it seems like. So my only real way of handling it, particularly since his army is leaning mostly to pyromancy, is to go magic resistance and force him to have to just use his fire on my lesser targets. And for the points you get it, I mean, it's 80 points to give MR3 to the Big Saurus unit. That was a given. I don't know if I should waste it on the skink unit again, but it did help a little bit. But it's definitely, I definitely think magic resistance, at least against these high elf armies or highborn elf armies, is going to be just on auto include for me for a while. In terms of my magic, I'm not a huge fan of druidism. It certainly helped here to keep the big monsters alive, but I don't like the fact that you have a spell that you have to cast to get the good effects, and then so they can either cancel that or cancel your big spells. It basically gives more of a bonus to my opponent, and anybody who's ever seen me roll magic dice will know that I give enough of a bonus to my opponent that I don't need any other help. I also don't like the fact that I can't get a Wizard Master unless I take the Quaddle, because he's a boatload of points. And if I were to take the Quaddle, I only have access to lores that I don't think help as much as Druidism. I still need to give, like, I've been playing with Evocation. I still need to give Alchemy a try, and I still need to give Divination a better try. I gave Divination a try with my Empire, and it's alright. I don't know how helpful it'll be with the Lizardmen, but I might as well try it. I love dinosaurs, so this has been a fun list for me. Um, and it feels good to have a victory after a tie and a bad loss last time. So I'm feeling like we had a good time. All in all, it was a good game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any comments, please leave them down below. And we did have to put off Skip joining the narrative for another week, so it'll be next week when he joins. So there'll only be one video this week. Hopefully there'll be 2 a week starting next week. So again, hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on the next one.